Hi everyone. I'm here to discuss the types of sleep studies. It's pretty much the only thing I could talk about without having to look down at anything. So I'm just going to get right into it. The first one I'd like to talk about is usually called an NPSG, or it could be called a PSG. It's a NPSG, which stands for nocturnal polysomnogram. This is an overnight study that if your doctor thinks that you might have sleep apnea or has some kind of sleeping issue, depending on the doctor might have asked you questions and he suspects that you might have sleep apnea, he's going to write an order for a sleep study, which will be sent to a sleep lab. And then they would contact you to get you on a schedule. So a nocturnal polysomnogram is the term for an NPSG, which is an overnight sleep study. That's so you are sleeping overnight at a lab. You are sleeping in a bed in a strange room, which I guess a lot of people have a problem with. I really don't myself. I can go to a hotel and sleep, in a strange bed. I don't have a problem, but there are a lot of people that have anxiety, and they have anxiety around strange environments. So I know when I worked at the sleep lab, a lot of people did have issues with that, and we were fine with somebody else coming with them for the night. We would usually have a recliner in ours. I mean, not every sleep lab has that. I've heard stories about other sleep labs where they didn't look, they were claustrophobic and or in a, not a very updated hotel where they're just renting the room in a hotel and they call that a sleep lab, with portable equipment. Where I worked, it wasn't like that. Our office was where the sleep lab was located. We had 6 suites there. Each suite looks exactly like a hotel room. It came with its own bathroom. It was a beautiful queen size bed. It has the CPAP machine on the side there for other tests that were performed in there. And then, of course, the equipment that they need, which comes with cameras, by the way. I mean, some people had issues with the cameras, but the entire night you are recorded, and the sleep techs are watching you in another room. They're monitoring you for the night. So that's just the way a sleep lab is. I do have another video that does show a sleep lab. So, a sleep lab suite. So if you want to take a look at that, you can see what it looks like. So you can kind of break the ice if you ever have to do it. So getting back to a nocturnal polysomnogram. So you are overnight at a lab. There's various electrodes, probably about 10 or 12 of them that are placed on you. This is a regular queen size bed, is not hospital-based bed or anything. You can bring your own pillow or 2, whatever makes you comfortable. We have the sleep lab, like well-defined sleep hygiene rules in that room. So, yes, you are supposed to sleep in the dark, so there's no windows in that particular room. We have a fan there. That's a good thing to sleep to, or if you want to take a sound machine with you, that's a good thing to have with you. We do have a TV in the room, but only for, right before you have to go to sleep. They don't allow the TV to be on all night. There's a curfew with that, but so anyway, nocturnal polysomnogram is basically electrodes they're placed on your head, your chest, your arms and your legs, the inside of your thighs, or close to your calves, like the bottom half of your legs. Those are electrodes with long wires attached to the equipment that they have in the room, and then that's part of the recording. So there is cardiac data, brain data, you know, those variables all contribute to the sleep study and the recording of the information for the night. So when you look at a sleep study, which is about 8 to 10 pages long, because I also tell people, you know, it's not like when you get an x-ray or a CAT scan. You're in there for like 10 minutes. So your results are going to maybe come to you in the next 48 hours. That is not so with a PSG. NPSG is an 8-hour test, usually between 6 and 8 hour test, which is overnight. You have the sleep techs in the other room monitoring you the entire night. Some of them count the sleep apneas as you're sleeping. Some of them don't. If they don't, there's a thing called scoring that they have to do, and that takes 3 days just to get the raw information into a scoring so that it could be prepared for the doctor to interpret it and get everything from raw numbers and graphs and all that stuff to a letter form document that you can read and see what the information is on it. So if you get a study done, don't think you're getting results in like 2 days. It usually takes about 2 weeks, to tell you the truth, because you're not the only one getting a sleep study. There's hundreds of other people before you. And there's a process. The process is 3 days for scoring, and it takes about 7 days for the doctor to get to yours and get the raw data into a letter formed document with all the information in it. I really do want to show you a polysomnogram. I mean, you know, it would have to be on a person. Even if you block out the numbers and the name, you know, it's not something. I don't have anything that's like that because I never had one myself. But you know, I know what's in it. But basically, the AHI is a major thing to look for in your sleep study. If you're looking at your sleep study, you want to look for the AHI. AHI means apnea hypopnea index. It's doesn't tell you, it just gives you an average of how many apneas you have per hour of the night. So if your AHI is like 40.3, then that means that you had about 40 episodes or apneas per hour. So that's just averaging it out. It doesn't say that you're having 40, you know, at that hour. You could have 50 or 60 in an hour, and then maybe 30 in another hour. So that's why they're averaging it out to about 40 per hour, which is kind of on the high side. The index, you know, mild is considered anywhere between 3.0 to about 10. Moderate apnea is between 10.0 and about 25. And anything that's 25 and higher is considered severe apnea. So you want to look for that on the sleep study if you have a PSG. The other thing that's important is to look for the information regarding how many minutes you had in each stage of sleep. And there's usually 4 stages of sleep. I went over another video with the different stages of sleep, the 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 being the light sleep, 2 being the little bit of deeper sleep, and 3 being the REM, which is the most important stage. Then 4, I don't know if I ever really went through, but it's just back to light, sort of. So, you know, and you go through those cycles throughout the night, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 2, 3, 4, and so forth, for the night, going up and down with that. But, yeah, so it's important to get that information, find out how many minutes you had in each stage of sleep. Most likely, if you have apnea, you're not getting the stage 3, unfortunately, because every time you have an apnea or disturbance, you're going to go back to stage 1 again and start over, because that's how it works. So that's important to look, though, and see, did you make it to stage 3? How many minutes did you get to stage 3 REM sleep? So that's a good factor to try to look for on the test. And then depending on your doctor, if you have a heart doctor, they might want to look at more of the cardio data. But if you have a neurologist that's looking for other information on there, then, you know, that's what they're going to be looking for. But all that data is on there, and that's what makes it different from a home sleep study. So the next one I'm going to go into is called a home sleep study. A home sleep study is a device that you wear, and it's not a CPAP machine. So forget that. It's definitely not that. It is a little device, and it's small. It's maybe this big or so, you know, and you just put it on with straps around your chest. It's like kind of like a lump here, and there's like straps that go around your chest, and then there's a little thing for your finger, and it falls off all the time. People have a problem with. You got to keep that thing on your finger because it's measuring the heart rate variability, and they need that to, you know, continue the test. So it's not like you can't have that on there. But the home sleep study is a device, so they either get it in the mail or you can go to the sleep lab and pick it up, and then you would bring it back the next day and they download the information off of it. So you just wear that for the night and you do your normal thing, you know, when you go to sleep, and it'll tell you how many hours you slept and how many apneas you had. And that's all it does. It just counts apneas. What's interesting about the NPSG is that it will tell you, besides all that other information, it'll also tell you if you have what's called PLM, which is periodic limb movement. Some people have this. It's a disorder where your limbs kind of jerk, and then that wakes you up. So that's something that if your neurologist or any doctor thinks that you might have that, and depends on what questions they ask you or how they evaluate you, and they might suspect PLM, that's can't happen with a home study. That's got to happen overnight at the lab during an NPSG. And it will tell you whether you have that particular disorder from the sleep study overnight. Okay, so we went through NPSG, nocturnal polysomnogram. We went through home sleep study. And the third one I wanted to talk about was called the CPAP titration. So a lot of times people say, oh, you know, I had a sleep study. Oh, my neighbor had a sleep study. Well, he only had one sleep study. So, you know, why are they calling me back? Did they make a mistake and all this other? No. If you had apnea, if you're first, that's what a NPSG is the basic sleep study, but there is a name for it. Say now you had that NPSG. Oh, my AHI is 35. Oh, you got to get a CPAP machine. Well, you can't just order a CPAP machine. You got to go and get a CPAP titration. So that's what the third type is. CPAP titration, titration, T-I-T-R-A-T-I-O-N. It's a term that talks about, you know, weaning you onto a certain medication or on a certain treatment. So they could titrate you with blood pressure medication. Oh, you're on 5 milligrams. Let's, you know, check your blood pressure. Oh, it's still too high. Let's titrate you up to 6 milligrams, you know, just saying hypothetically. Same thing with the CPAP machine. You have a pressure anywhere from 4 to 20 centimeters that needs to be determined on the CPAP titration test. And that happens overnight at a lab, unfortunately. So you have to be at the lab, in a bed. Now you're attached. Now you also have to have those electrodes. Those electrodes all have to be on you. And then in addition to that, you're going to have the CPAP machine. With the first, they start out with just the nasal mask, which just covers your nose. And then if it turns out you're not a nose breather when you're sleeping, if you have your mouth open, then they have to kind of wake you up and get you situated with the full face mask. So you do have to put a mask on your face, and then they start to titrate up, turn their knob or whatever it is up and titrate you until they find the optimum pressure for you which is unique to every individual. It's never going to be, oh, my husband had that done, I could just use his pressure setting. No, it doesn't work that way. Every single person in the world that needs a CPAP machine has to come in and get their own titration, their own, and it depends, because 2 years down the road, if you gained a couple pounds, your pressure is going to change, and then you're going to have to come in for another titration and see if it's different. You know, because then there's people that have the problem with, oh, I got gas and I think the pressure's too high, or the pressure's too low, or, you know, I don't feel refreshed when I get up, you know, all these kinds of things. So CPAP titration is important. You definitely need to do that to get the proper setting, which is unique to everyone. To have a CPAP titration done will help you to get your optimum pressure, working with a sleep tech overnight with them one-on-one. Now, there is another thing, a device called an APAP machine, where you could kind of cut out the whole CPAP titration step by just getting that machine. What I say about it is, I mean, if you think you can get a machine thrown at you, and it's all you, because you're not going to have a sleep tech with you to overnight to like coach you through all that, by all means do it. And you won't have to come back for the second part. But the second part, most of the time, people can't acclimate to the machine. They never had that thing on their face. They can't just get something in the mail and start throwing their mask on their face and thinking that they're going to be able to do this. So CPAP titration study, if you have a problem with the AutoPAP, or, you know, just having a problem, and, you know, it's better to be one-on-one with the sleep tech overnight, and they'll be able to find the right pressure for you, because they do that every night. That's their job. So, you know, it might seem like an extra step. It is a little bit longer process just to get to where you got to be, but it's better to take the time to do it, and, you know, at least you'll know, and you'll have the right, you know, I think it's just better, you know. So that's the CPAP titration. The last test I wanted to really discuss, which isn't really that much about apnea, but it is about a sleep disorder, is for narcolepsy. It's called the MSLT, which stands for Multiple Sleep Latency Test. And this is a daytime test. It's not at night. It's actually to test if you have narcolepsy. So it's a series of 5, I believe it's 5 naps. They're only 5 minutes long. But, you know, it takes like, I think she starts the test around 6 or 7 in the morning, and they don't leave till like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because, you know, they don't just do the naps like every 5 minutes either. I mean, you have to wait a half hour or 45 minutes, you know, and it just has to be done in a progression, basically. But it's basically a test, a daytime test, where she'll, you know, put the certain stuff on you, the equipment, and you have to try to go to sleep for 5 minutes, and she's going to detect to see if you make it to REM within those 5 minutes. It's crazy. We've had several people, unfortunately, have narcolepsy. I've seen the test being performed while I was doing my job at the time, which is a medical secretary. And I can't even believe it, because I would never be able to go to sleep for 5 minutes. And I can't even take a nap. I can't even take one nap. So these people they're obviously very sleepy, first of all, and they may not be able to function during the day. You know, this is why they're there. They have to find out that they have narcolepsy. So that's what that is. 5 little 5-minute naps, and see if you go into REM. Because if you're going into REM within those 5 minutes, and I think you have to be in REM for at least 3 of the 5 naps, that's pretty scary, because that sounds like, to me, you're not really awake because REM stage sleep is like delta frequency brainwave stuff, and it's like your brain is like in a sleep state, which is a deep sleep, a deep part of the mind. It's not like, an awake stage. So yeah, that's pretty scary. But anyway, so that's with those tests. You got the NPSG, nocturnal polysomnogram, home sleep study, just usually called the HST, CPAP titration, second part of a sleep study. By the way, you can never have a CPAP titration unless you have a PSG done. You will never have just a CPAP titration done. You can't just go straight to that. You got to have the base study first, which shows that you have apnea. And then if you have apnea, then you get the CPAP titration test done next. And that's to obviously get a CPAP machine. For the people that have been on a machine for 20 years and they may have had like 4 or 5 tests, just because of Medicare and insurance purposes, every 3 years, I believe it is, you do need to get a new PSG done. There is also another test called a split study, and that is a combo of the nocturnal polysomnogram and the CPAP all in one night. But it's kind of difficult to get that done. For people who are very severe, they can get away with that. But it's not, most of the time, there's certain criteria that needs to be met in order for it to split. So it has to be early enough during the night. So usually within an hour or about an hour or 45 minutes to an hour, you have to show that you have enough apnea for them to test, to stop the test and then get you on a CPAP. These are mostly for people who have already been on CPAP for more than 4 or 5 years. And then they can do a split usually because that criteria is met and they could stop the test. It has to be early enough in the night too. I mean, you can have severe apnea, but maybe you didn't hit that severe criteria to maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And now they don't have enough time to titrate you and do that second part because that criteria wasn't met till later on, and time just goes. Time doesn't stop for a CPAP titer or a split study. So that's where, we've had tests where, oh yeah, they were severe, but it didn't happen till later in the night. Then they didn't have time to titrate and find an optimal pressure. So then they would have to come back again and redo the CPAP titration portion of that test over again so that they would have the whole night to find out what the best pressure was. Also, I should probably just mention a BiPAP titration, which is a whole other thing. A BiPAP titration. So a CPAP machine only goes between 4 and 20 centimeters. A BiPAP titration, a BiPAP machine, and also I should tell you, a CPAP machine also is one pressure for the inhale, and then the machine would release and you would just have an exhale as normal, like, because it's going to help you breathe that way. A BiPAP machine has 2 pressures, an inhale pressure and an exhale pressure. So if you get to a titration and your machine only goes up to 20 centimeters and they still didn't find that your apneas were falling at 20 centimeters, that's when they stop the test and say, we couldn't find a pressure for you because it was going to be higher than 20 and the CPAP machine doesn't go past 20. And you need to come back and get retitrated. And most of the time they end up on a BiPAP titration, or they end up having a BiPAP titration study. And they'll find an optimum pressure for the inhale and the exhale, which is really simulating your breathing at night, so you don't have the apneas. All right, all this stuff with tests and equipment, it's tiring, right? My legs are, I can't sit anymore on my feet, sorry. So I just wanted to say that I am a health coach. I can help you with nutrition and exercise and mind positive talk. But my specialty is sleep because I worked at a sleep lab for 7 years. And I can help. I think the best way is to just stay off that CPAP machine, but you got to lose weight and get your energy levels more level and, you know, get in the gym and all those basic things that everybody should be doing so that they won't end up on a CPAP machine. So that's my final word to try to be more healthy and, you know, lose the weight if you can. I can help you with those things. Try to stay off a CPAP machine as much as possible. It's just like a pill. There's side effects. You know, it's not foolproof. A lot of people can't handle a CPAP machine. They got this new thing called Inspire where you have to put an implant in your chest and then use a remote. I mean, nobody's really found it's just like pantyhose. I keep saying, nobody ever found a better invention for that. So, and same with the CPAP machine. And it's just simulating you to help you breathe. And it's not really, you know, curing anything, you know. And besides that, it has a lot of side effects. There's a lot of things that people can't tolerate with the CPAP machine. Why not have a go at trying to lose weight and getting your, maybe getting off some, you know, processed food, get rid of some inflammation, because when it comes down to it, everything's about inflammation. And it is like that with sleep too, because when you fall asleep, things start to inflate a little bit more. And they say that the tissues in your throat and your tongue and all that, it starts to get inflamed. And that's what makes the apnea, because it's considered obstruction. That's why they call obstructive sleep apnea. That's an obstruction. So if you can get rid of some of the inflammation in your body and your tissues lay right and they don't get inflamed while you're sleeping, you won't have that OSA. And then you won't need a CPAP machine. So I hope this video helped you to understand all the different sleep studies and what it entails, the process. And maybe you would consider, you know, trying to work on sleep hygiene, number one, and number two, trying to work on your body, get it in a better situation than wherever you are right now. Okay? All right. My name is Lisa Ann Retta. I'm a sleep and health coach, and I can help you with those things. So PM me. Email me at nutritionintuition2019@gmail.com. Be glad to help you out, or give me a call. Anyway, my information is down below. Thank you. Bye.